It is once again time, everybody. Welcome, one and all, to the second edition of the Other Show with the other guys. And first and foremost, I want to apologize for not being more consistent with the show. But rest assured, I've been making some plans for the show, so it should be up on a more consistent basis. I've actually planned out a few of the next shows to come up. Now, today's hit list consists of Match of the Week, Diva of the Week, and before I go on with the hit list, I just want to thank Gay4Play3 for the suggestions last year on these hit lists. Anyway, then we go on to the newest segments that will be a regular here on the other show. First is the What If inbox. Now, the first question here was created by me, but I'd really love if you guys send in any what ifs that keep you up at night, and force you to drink NyQuil to force yourself to sleep. So I'd appreciate any questions you have in advance. And finally, rebirth of Sportsmar. You may remember that I did debut this last week on the Raw review, and that one was more of a bit of a sense of humor type of stuff. But right here, it will be more of a serious side of sports section here. Anyway, for those not interested in the sports section, only care about the wrestling portion of this, I will save the sports section for last and keep the wrestling in the beginning, so that way you can tune out whenever you feel that it is your time to tune out. Anyway, since today is a very today is a very special part of a special week this week in the sports world, I will only be talking about one thing, but rest assured that in future episodes, I will evolve. I will talk about more than just one sport. I will adapt, and I will not perish. So let me kick things off with the easiest ones of the pack. Diva of the Week and Match of the Week. Now, this is basically going down the last calendar week, so from 7 days ago today up until today. And we're going to start with Diva of the Week. Now, before I get into who it is, Diva of the Week will be analyzed as the following in this order: storyline relevance, match quality, overall interest level, and for me, this week, it has to go to Alicia Fox. While it may seem like a generic choice, when you really think about the past week, the only ones that can come close are Paige and Summer Rae. But not only has Alicia had more matches on the big shows, she's been featured more than a diva who just lost her championship match really should be featured. I mean, she had a good match on SmackDown with Natalya. Granted, Natalya did kind of carry that match. A decent one with Paige on Raw. She turned on Oksana, and she's still getting pushed despite losing. I don't know. For me, it just seems obvious that this week's Diva of the Week is Alicia Fox, because no other diva has come close to being as relevant as she is right now. As for Match of the Week, since I dominantly watch Raw and SmackDown, I may snub some matches from Main Event or Superstars. So let me know what you think, if I snubbed any of the matches from there that you think is a Match of the Week candidate. I'll gladly watch it and correct myself in the comment section below. Anyway, this week, my Match of the Week was on SmackDown, where I feel I can safely assume that the majority of these matches will come from. And it was Seth Rollins versus Dolph Ziggler. Seth Rollins and Dolph Ziggler kicked off what ended up being an awesome episode of SmackDown, actually. And what resulted was a match that stole that great show. They got a lot of time and told a decent story with Triple H outside and having a little bit of doubts when Dolph Ziggler came close to a pinfall on Seth Rollins. Anyway, the match was fast-paced, it was fun, and I would recommend to anyone who would want to see a fun match. These two names would automatically get you to tune into their match, because these guys usually end up having a pretty damn good match. Alright, on to the What If inbox. Today's topic is one that'll probably hit close to home to 150% of the IWC. And it is, what if CM Punk had never walked out on the WWE? Now, this is one that I thought I could have a lot of fun with because the WWE would look so different right now had CM Punk stayed for WrestleMania 30 and stayed until his contract expired in July. For starters, I don't think WrestleMania 30 would have been as great. But to get there, we have to go back a little bit further. The date is January 27th, Monday Night Raw. Without having to rewrite all these segments and stories, CM Punk, in all likelihood, would have called out Kane and cut a work shoot on Triple H. Triple H would have put him into a match, most likely against the Shield in a handicap match. Kane would have interfered and Punk would have gotten beaten down. This match would have ended up in a disqualification. It's basically exactly what you would think would happen. Now, to save some time and summarize, the next few weeks would have gone pretty much the same way, except Punk may have gotten the upper hand once or twice on them. Once on an episode of SmackDown, once on an episode of Raw. Most likely with the chair as an equalizer against the Shield and Kane. And I also think that slowly but surely the Shield would have isolated themselves away from the storyline, which would have ultimately led to a CM Punk versus Kane match at Elimination Chamber. And I believe, similar to Daniel Bryan, that they would have had CM Punk pull double duty and wrestle twice in one night and say that the winner of Punk versus Kane gets into the Elimination Chamber match. And obviously CM Punk ends up winning that match, heads to the Elimination Chamber. And before I get into what would happen with CM Punk, let me just say that in domino effect, Daniel Bryan would not have played a key role at all. I think he just would have been another spot monkey here. And he would have ended up, I think, eliminating Sheamus. Sheamus turns heel and kills him after he gets eliminated, turning Sheamus heel and setting up their feud for WrestleMania, which that's like the only sense that I can find for them starting their feud. And CM Punk ends up with Randy Orton as the final two. And obviously they're going to have their little back and forth exchange for about, I would say like 7 minutes at the most. And then this time though, instead of like how Daniel Bryan did it, I think instead of Kane screwing CM Punk, it would have been Triple H screwing CM Punk, thus fully explaining or showing his motives to be against CM Punk ever being the champion, thus setting up our WrestleMania card as it would look right now. So right now, your WrestleMania card consists of CM Punk versus Triple H, Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus, and Randy Orton versus Batista for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Now, at this point, I know there's going to be an argument brought up by you guys saying that Daniel Bryan was still really over and still would have managed to find a way to worm his way into the World Championship match. But at the end of the day, before Punk walked out, WWE did what they wanted and went all the way with it. See Batista winning the Royal Rumble, Orton versus Cena 2, Rock versus Cena 2. So at this point, I don't think Bryan would have found any way to get into the title match, as stupid as it may seem right now. Anyway, this leads us to March 3rd. More domino effects. I guarantee you that the Usos would not have won the tag team titles on this episode, which would have led them to a better Mania moment and winning the tag titles off of the New Age Outlaws, which, again, in domino effect, would have led to the detraction of the Outlaws from the match with Kane against the Shield, which would have left the Shield without opponents, which would have left the WWE with only one alternative, but to have the Shield feud against each other for WrestleMania. And in the end, it probably just would have been Roman Reigns versus Dean Ambrose for the United States Championship, with Seth Rollins lurking at ringside or something like that, or as the referee or the enforcer. Anyway, March 3rd would have been a forgettable show because the fans weren't going to, quote-unquote, hijack the show, which wouldn't have forced the WWE to put on a great show. And if we remember correctly, Raws were pretty lackluster at that point. I mean, it was a little bit after Elimination Chamber that it really started to pick up. But I don't know. I believe this build-up wouldn't have gone over as well. Fast forward to WrestleMania. Our matches are Orton versus Batista for the championship. Maybe Cena gets thrown in there, which leaves Bray Wyatt with no opponent, which probably would have thrown him against like someone random and out of nowhere. Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus in a meaningless match where Triple H officially hires Sheamus as his henchman. Punk versus Triple H in another meaningless match. Roman Reigns versus Dean Ambrose for some kind of a triple threat with the Shield. And I think the rest of the card would have been pretty much the same. And since they would have been forced to stick with Randy Orton versus Batista, or since they chose to stick with that, or they would have chosen, they would not have closed the show. I firmly believe that if CM Punk stayed, Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar or CM Punk versus Triple H would have ended up closing up the show. I mean, you have Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker, which would have closed the show because the streak was broken, or CM Punk versus Triple H, where CM Punk finally overcomes Triple H after like 2 months of feuding. Not to mention the fact that Orton versus Batista would have gotten everyone raging and booing and heating at the match, the entire match. So the addition of the title match that everyone would be pissed off about, on top of the streak being broken, would have caused this Mania to be regarded to as one of the worst in history, if not the worst in history. Anyway, Batista ends up walking out, and it is only then that the WWE decides to finally turn him heel because of the heat that he's getting. But then it will be too late. Anyway, his first contender, sadly, it'd have been Orton. No, I do believe CM Punk would have found his way into that match and made it like a triple threat at Ryback Rules against Randy Orton and Batista, where he gets screwed over by Triple H or one of Triple H's henchmen, Sheamus. And then that would have set up the match at Ryback. But I'm getting a little bit too ahead of myself here. And it's at this point that we realize that Evolution's reunion never would have gone down. So that is another bad thing as a result. Anyway, after Mania, I can almost be sure that AJ would have lost the belt after Mania. And I am pretty damn sure she would have never left. Which means we would have gotten, as a result of Punk staying, AJ versus Paige way too soon at Ryback Rules. And you saw, Paige is still green, even to this day. So, adding AJ against Paige to the Ryback Rules pay-per-view would have been blasphemy. And I will gladly admit that at WrestleMania 29, I was wrong, that AJ versus Caitlyn shouldn't have happened because they were both still just a little bit green, too green to wrestle in that big of a stage and that big of a moment. But I think their match at Ryback ended up proving that they were ready and could handle that big situation. Now, as with this one, Paige is still a little bit green, so she's not fully all the way there yet. And if they had had their match at Ryback Rules, it would have been way too soon. The rest of Paige's fucking title reign would have just been filler and garbage, unlike kind of like how it is right now, except there's actually like a full set. We can actually see what's going to happen with her, unlike what would have happened here, because here she would have beaten AJ at Ryback Rules. AJ probably would have gone with CM Punk because Triple H likes to bring in real stuff into wrestling, and Paige would have been stuck with jobbers as contenders until she feuds with someone like Summer Rae or Emma. Anyway, after CM Drunk would have gotten screwed at Ryback Rules, I could see Triple H start to put his career up for grabs, which sets up his match, his final encounter with Sheamus. If CM Punk loses, he is out of the WWE. And since I did hear that this was supposed to be his final match in Chicago at Ryback, he was supposed to lose in a career-threatening match. And since they already had CM Punk versus Triple H at WrestleMania, I feel like the next best thing to do here would to be push the younger guy. Even though Sheamus is older than Randy Orton, I think that since Sheamus isn't fully, completely established yet, this victory to end CM Punk's career would have fully put him on the map. And even as much as I hate Sheamus, if they really do want to push him as hard as it seems like they do, this would have been the perfect way to reestablish him, have him end CM Punk's career in Chicago. He's a heat magnet forever, at least in Chicago, at the very least in Chicago. And he looks big, unstoppable, and really good. And that's what I think would have ended up happening. I think Sheamus would have been the one to end CM Punk's career at Payback. And after that, Sheamus would move on to the title picture. But at that point, I think Daniel Bryan might have won the belt off Batista. He would at least be in the discussion to be in the title picture, unless he's in some filler feud, which doesn't seem too far of an unlikely possibility. And Sheamus would go after whoever has the belt. But this is the point where I stop. So in the end, had Punk stayed, we'd have a broken up Shield, Batista as champion, no Evolution, Bryan in meaningless feuds until maybe he gets his shot, a garbage Mania, the streak still broken, Paige versus AJ too soon, no Monster Kane, and his final match would be a loss to Sheamus. Now, this is purely what I think would have happened, but keep in mind that all these predictions are based off reports that I've seen on a lot of sites that I've seen or that say that these were the plans for Punk, and a lot of them are kind of in tune with each other. It's nothing like this site reported one thing, the other one reported another. No, these are things that were like agreed upon a lot of dirt sheets. Now, this was a mixture of that and the elimination of stuff that only happened because he left. Anyway, on the brighter side of the spectrum, had CM Punk stayed, we'd have a heel Sheamus and the Usos getting a WrestleMania moment. But overall, I think it's safe to say that the product as a whole wouldn't be nearly as interesting right now. And it probably would have led to a lot of bad booking decisions. So, in conclusion, Punk's departure ended up being best for business. Although I did like Punk and still do kind of like Punk as an entertainer and a wrestler, I did lose a lot of respect for him after he just walked out during WrestleMania season. But in the end, it did end up being best for business. I'm not crediting Punk for that. I'm crediting WWE Creative for that. So, in the end, Punk leaving is what was best for business. And that's what would have happened if Punk never left the WWE. All right, ladies and gentlemen, on to Sportsmar, the sports analysis from the sports analyst. Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, today we will be tackling the only real important thing. I know I might get torched for snubbing the NBA Finals, but this is pretty much the biggest thing going on in the world right now, in the sports world, and that is the 2014 FIFA World Cup. We are just mere hours away from it. The anticipation is killing me. I am looking very much forward to it. So I just want to get my bracket out right now so that people know that I'm not bullshitting when I say I was 100% correct. So I'm going to start with the first game that will occur once the knockout stages begin. The round of 16, 1A, which is the winner of Group A, will take on Group 2B, which is second place from Group B. Now, I definitely see Brazil taking Group A. They just have a far and away superior team to the three teams in Group A. Me being a Mexico fan, it is kind of hard to say that, but I can see Brazil has a strong midfield. They have players like Oscar and Hulk and Lucas and players like that to hold down their midfield. Ramirez is another one. And they do have a dangerous-looking attack. The only thing that they really lack and really need right now is a solid number 9. A lot of people think that Fred is that guy, but I just don't see Fred being good enough to get them through, Joe is still like kind of an enigma to people. People don't really know fully what he can do just yet, me included, so I don't know if he could be that guy, but I definitely think that the big gaping hole in this team is at the forward position and 120 feet away or yards away at the goalkeeper position. Now, Julio Cesar is a fantastic goalkeeper. There's no doubt about that, but he is getting up there in age. One has to wonder how much longer he can go and if this might be his final hurrah. And usually when keepers start to get old, they kind of start to, their skills start to go away a little bit. So I think I don't know. I'm not totally sure, but I think Julio Cesar's skills you might start to see that they're starting to go down a little bit. Anyway, Brazil, the winner of Group A, will take on the Netherlands, second in Group B. The Netherlands were finalists just 4 short years ago and are now looking again, which is weird, like dark horses after that abysmal Euro 2012 where they could not even muster up a point, I believe. And when you look at their team, they actually have a pretty strong team, you know. You have the returning Snyder, Van Persie, and Robin, the three-headed monster in attack. You have Leroy Fer in the midfield, Nigel de Jong, and the only real question that has ever been brought up about this team was its defensive standpoint. But, I mean, I think they're good enough defensively to get through to the knockout stages. But here, I just do not see them getting past Brazil. Brazil just has way too much firepower for them. So I see Brazil making it into the quarterfinals. On to the next game, and Brazil's opponent determined that very same day, I might add. 1C versus 2D. The winner of Group C versus second place in Group D. The winner of Group C I just see being Colombia because, again, just like Brazil, I think they're far and away better than the rest of their group. And Greece might give them a headache or two, but I don't think Greece is strong enough nor good enough to dethrone Colombia here. Now, 2D is going to be a bit controversial because D is considered by a few to be one of the groups of death here, which there's like 3 of them here this time around. And I believe that in second place will come the team of England. A lot of people are sleeping on this team. On paper, this team is a very good team. You know, you have Sturridge up front. Rooney might be like lurking a little bit behind him. You have on the wings to have Raheem Sterling and Aaron Lennon or Danny Welbeck. And even though I don't agree with Danny Welbeck starting, if he does start, you have Ross Barkley in the middle of midfield, the veterans and Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard to lead the midfield. And defensively, you have Gary Cahill and Phil Jagielka, Ashley Cole, who didn't go, but you have a very, 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 very good replacement in Leighton Baines. So I look at this England team up and down, and I just see so much potential for them, and I don't see how anyone could sleep on them quite like they do. But when they do go against Colombia, who has James Rodriguez to lead them, Jackson Martinez will have to pick up the slack after Radamel Falcao is not going. So even with that, I think Colombia will get past England, but don't sleep on England because I am totally sold on them right now. I think that they could pull off the upset here, but I'm going to play it safe here and go with Colombia. All right, the very next day on June 29th will be 1B versus 2A. First place of Group B versus second place of Group A. And that, in my opinion, the first place of Group B will be Spain. You could make an argument that the Netherlands has a chance to dethrone Spain, but as of right now, there's no signs of Spain really fully slowing down. There's no signs of them, having another hiccup like they did against Switzerland at the last World Cup. So I think Spain will take this group easily with maybe one tie against the Netherlands. But now I do hear a lot of arguments for Chile saying that they have an absolute chance to dethrone the Netherlands from second place. But I just don't see it, and I don't see them making it out of this group. I see their roster up and down right now, and I don't see anyone outside of Arturo Vidal and Alexis Sanchez that can really make a difference in the game and, catapult them over a team like the Netherlands who have multiple players that can do that, as does Spain. Anyway, second place in Group A. This one is a toss-up for me between Croatia and Mexico, and that's going to be the real crucial game, I think. That and Mexico versus Cameroon is going to be the crucial game to see which team survives. I think Brazil and Croatia are going to play to a 1-1, maybe 2-2 tie, or Brazil's going to sneak out a win with like a 2-1 win or a 3-1 or a 3-2 win, I should say. But that game against Cameroon that both of these teams have is going to be crucial. Now, I'm not sleeping on Cameroon. I do know that they're a solid team overall, but I just don't see them, overlashing Mexico or Croatia. But what I do see happening is Mexico defeating Cameroon on June 13th, and then going on. I think they have a chance to tie Brazil, but I think Brazil is going to beat them. And then they're going to beat Croatia 1-0, just like they did 12 years ago in Korea, Japan, at the 2002 World Cup. There's going to be a lot of ties in Group A. That's just one thing that I believe, because all these teams are so evenly matched, except for Brazil, who's the far and away favorite to win this one. And I just believe that will cause a lot of ties to go down at the World Cup. But I do believe that Mexico, along with England, are two of the dark horses in this World Cup. And I'm not just saying that because I go for Mexico and want to see them succeed. It's because, look, Mexico faced so much adversity just to get to the World Cup that it just seems tailor-made that they absolutely blow people away with their performances and make it further than anyone thought they should. The round of 16 is further than a lot of people think they should. But they will be going against Spain here. And you cannot ask for a tougher opponent coming out of, surprisingly, getting out of the regular stages. So I don't know. I mean, the underdog story here is nice. It would be nice to see Mexico win here. It would make sense considering the whole, underdog thing would be a nice little touching story. And I do think Mexico is a very much better team than people give them credit for. But I just don't see Spain getting knocked out this early in the tournament. I don't think they're going to win the whole thing, but I don't see them getting knocked out this early. So I will take Spain just to be safe. But again, just like with England, do not sleep on Mexico, because at any second they could pull out the surprise. With their coach, trust me, their coach used to coach my favorite team. And I know his style. I know how he works. He loves being the underdog. He thrives on being the underdog. And he also thrives on being the favorite. So do not sleep on Mexico either. June 29th, after that game, 1D will take on 2C. Again, first place of Group D takes on second place of Group C. Italy versus Greece. I think Italy will take Group D. They have way too strong of a freaking midfield. And Mario Balotelli up front. That's just screams scary for a lot of teams. I don't really need to go in depth there. Greece, I see making it out of Group C. Only because, again, I just can't see any other team. I don't like watching Greece play because I don't like how they play. But I just see them making it out of there. But I don't see them making it out of this one. I see Italy beating them a very convincing, I say 3-0 here. And passing on to the quarterfinals. 1E versus 2F. I think France will take the first place of Group E. Despite them snubbing Samir Nasri and Franck Ribéry being injured, this is still a pretty damn good team. And again, just like England, they have a very good team on paper. They just don't show it on the field so many times. However, with France, I just don't see them quite making it as far as I could potentially see England making it. So France I think they will take first place of Group E. And they will take on Bosnia, who will take second place of Group F. And I think Bosnia is a very underrated country. I saw them play against Mexico last week, and they didn't play half bad. I mean, they could have attacked a little more for my taste. But you know what? They actually had a lot of creativity. They attacked well from the flanks. They made a pretty damn good goal, and they have Edin Dzeko and Miralem Pjanic to lead them to the promised land if they should make it past France, but I just don't see it happening. I don't see them passing France. I think France will make it into the quarterfinals. 1G versus 2H. First place of Group G should be Germany. This Germany team is the odds-on favorite, I think, in my opinion. I mean, it's a toss-up between them and Brazil for the odds-on favorites to take the entire tournament. And, I mean, you look at their team right now. I mean, even though Marco Reus did get injured and will not play this World Cup, unfortunately, and that's one of the things that I hate about this World Cup is that there's a lot of injuries to ruin it. But you look at this team, up and down. I mean, the depth is there. The depth is so deep that even with the loss of Marco Reus, this team is still the odds-on favorite to win the World Cup. So I see them taking on Russia, who will advance to second place from Group H. Again, I mean, Group H is not very strong. Belgium is the odds-on favorite to win that group, which is who I have winning that group. And I think Russia will make it. And again, just like with Bosnia, they except the Bosnia isn't quite as defensive as them. They are pretty defensive, and I don't like that. I don't like Fabio Capello's style. I never have, even back when he was with England. I have never liked his style, never liked the way that his teams play. So I don't think Russia's going to be any different here. And I see Germany breaking down that Russian wall, no pun intended, and getting through with, I'd say like a 2-0 victory. 1F versus 2E. 1F, the winner of Group F for me will be Argentina. Look, you could say all you want about their weak defense with Demichelis is apparently a considered starter. That just speaks volumes about how strong their defense is. They do have a very good right back in Pablo Zabaleta. As a Manchester City fan, I can tell you I am an advocate for this guy. This guy's a fantastic defender. But I don't know. I mean, if that's the best your defense has got, I don't really know how far you're going to make it. But they will finish in first place of Group F. That attack is unbelievable. I just think that Ecuador might barely edge out everyone else and take second place. I think they're going to do it on the last day, too. Like, they're going to find a way to sneak away with the second place of Group E, take on Argentina, and get sufficiently knocked out because that team has unbelievable attack. And, you know, I saw Ecuador. I've seen them play. They are not fully convincing just yet. And, you know, I think they have a long way to go before they are fully considered a powerhouse to be considered anywhere near beating Argentina. Finally, closing out the round of 16, 1H versus 2G. 1H, I've already said, was Belgium. These guys are another dark horse I have to, but these guys I think actually have a chance to take the whole thing, unlike Mexico and England, who I just think could make it further than people think they will. They will take on 2G. Now, this one is a little bit tough because G is, in my opinion, the real group of death. You have Germany, Portugal, Ghana, and the U.S. And for me, it was like a toss-up between Portugal and the U.S. Ghana is a very good team. Do not get me wrong. They made it a lot further than people thought they would at the last World Cup. But, I mean, you just look at the powerhouses in this group. You can't see Ghana making it out of there alive. So it all depends on whether Ronaldo will be fit or not. And right now, I've read reports that he is fit to play in the opener against Germany. Even though I do see Portugal losing that game, if Ronaldo is healthy, they will definitely take second place. If not, U.S. could sneak up from behind them and take second place of the group. But I see Portugal still making it out of second place, taking on Belgium in the round of 16, and getting sufficiently knocked out by Belgium. So that leads us to our quarterfinals, which, if you're keeping score at home, is Brazil versus Colombia, France versus Germany, Spain versus Italy, and Argentina versus Belgium. I'm already salivating at the thought of these matches. Let's start off with Brazil versus Colombia. Since I've already done my analysis on all the teams, you don't need to know my exact full opinions on all of them. But I see Brazil passing because even though Colombia will give them a good fight, I think Brazil has too much firepower, just like they did for the Netherlands, to be stopped by Colombia. Now, Colombia is a pretty good team. They are on the rise because they have a lot of very good, young, talented players, and they have a great leader in James Rodriguez. And even though he's very young, he's just a very good player right now. And I think that this will be a very good performance. It will showcase how good Colombia is and will be for the years to come. But I just don't see them overcoming the hosts in the quarterfinals. So our first semifinalist is Brazil. France versus Germany. France, you were good enough to take out Bosnia. You will not be good enough to take out Germany. Again, the depth. Germany has way too many good players to be knocked out by a France team who looks good on paper, but looks completely weak when put next to the team of Germany. Spain versus Italy. This one's going to be a little bit controversial because I know everyone's going to think that Spain is going to run roughshod through Italy just like they did at the Euros, but no. I see Italy getting redemption for that. How? Midfield. You think of all the teams in the world, the only team that can contest with Spain's midfield would be Germany and Italy. And I think that Italy's midfield will be strong enough to hold them this time around. They will not make the same mistakes they did 2 years ago. And I think they will knock them out and make it to the semifinals on a Mario Balotelli penalty. Argentina versus Belgium. In my opinion, the most exciting match of this round. As much as I love Argentina's attack, as much as I would like to see Sergio Aguero hoist the World Cup trophy, it's just not happening against Belgium. Belgium is just like Colombia, only better. And what I mean by that is these guys are filled with a lot of future stars and a young crop of talent that is going to be good for a lot of years to come. But the difference between the two is that Belgium's team has a lot more experience in Europe than Colombia's team. You think of Colombia's team, you see Jackson Martinez, who's been at Porto for like a year or two. James Rodriguez, who was at Porto but is now barely getting like the real spotlight shown on him at Monaco, and he's only been there for a year. You look at Cuadrado, who still doesn't get all that much attention, but he's a very good player in his own right. You know, these guys aren't used to really having the spotlight shown on them. And then you look at Belgium. Fellaini plays for Manchester United. Enough said. Hazard, one of the biggest signs in Chelsea history. Enough said. Also referred to as the best Chelsea player at the moment. Enough said. Romelu Lukaku, been in the top 10 scoring in the Premier League the past 2 seasons. And in my opinion, the Premier League is the best league in the world. Enough said. Kevin De Bruyne, who's been, biled as this amazing player for all these years to come at Chelsea, goes to Werder Bremen in Germany and lights it up his first season. I could go on and on and on, praising this Belgium team, but I think you guys get the picture. Belgium will make it into the semifinals. That leads to our semifinals. Brazil versus Germany and Italy versus Belgium. In Brazil versus Germany, this one is going to be a tough one. Brazil's speed will prove to be a lot of problems for Germany's, possession type of style where they like to keep possession and attack, and pass and pass and pass. And, they just find Neymar on the flanks and bang, they could just score one on you right there and that would be that. But Germany is too strong for Brazil, and I think the lack of a number 9 is going to show here in this game for Brazil. And Germany, I think this will be the game where Miroslav Klose breaks the record for the most World Cup goals in history. Gladly so. I've been following this guy since 2002. Unbelievable player. And Germany will advance to the final. Italy versus Belgium. Controversial. But I say Belgium will defeat Italy. Why? As strong as Italy's midfield is, I can't see it keeping up with the youth and speed of Belgium. That means Belgium and Germany are headed to the 2014 World Cup final. And Brazil will play Italy in the third place game. Now, since Brazil will be at home and will want to avenge that, that loss to Germany in the semifinals. I think they will take third place out of Italy's hands. But the final, Germany versus Belgium, a very, very, very good game on paper, in my opinion. This just looks amazing. I'm looking at the starting 11 lineups right now and comparing the two. It just looks unbelievable. Germany does look better on paper, but it's not like Belgium look like a bunch of slapdicks right now. These guys have a very good team as well. This could go either way, but I just think that this is the year that Germany finally break the hump, break the spell, finally make it to the final and win the World Cup. And Joachim Löw will finally stop being scrutinized for always making it to the big one but never winning it. Anyway, Germany will be your 2014 World Cup champions. That is my 2014 World Cup bracket. Please add in what you think is going to happen. Put your brackets down there and have fun with it. Anyway, this has been the other guy with the other show. Most of these shows probably won't be as long as this one, but I did have a lot to talk about here, and I'm glad I did get it off my chest. Anyway, please leave questions for the What If inbox. My Ask FM account will be in the description box, and you could add it there. You could add it in the comment section, whatever you would like. And if you want to add in some sports questions, that'd be pretty cool too, you know. So I guess that pretty much wraps things up here. This has been the other guy for the MT Omar Reviews with his other show, saying yada yada yada, blah blah blah, good and bye.